All right, welcome back. We continue live right here on Pittsburgh CW. Bob Pompiani, Tim Benz with you tonight. Reminder to you, the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is on. We're live. Tim will be part of the show as well as Andrew Filipponi and Jeff Hathorn, but we're starting because of the length of the Steeler game ended. Then they switched over to another game, so CBS kind of moved everything back. So
the Charger game?
Yeah, we get on the air at 12:15, I think.
We do?
Yeah. Did
That's
you know
not
that?
my contract.
Well, you're going to have to do that.
Oh,
we have coffee
Locking the
brewing
doors.
right now. This is how it's going to go. But we'll be live, so tune in.
Hoping
It
for
should be
something
lively.
besides coffee.
We'll talk a lot about that. Real quick, before I go to the lines, I want to talk about Minkah Fitzpatrick, who came in and made a difference. No question. For someone who hadn't really practiced, but this week, interception, forced fumble. He got called for a penalty I thought was cheap.
There's a makeup call because they wanted to call Bud Dupree on the previous one, and they didn't do it, so they decided to call the next possible one.
But, I mean, he just hit the guy. What's he supposed to do?
No, it was a stupid call.
You like his play today?
Oh, yeah. I mean, as far as
Did you justify the pick? Did you like that?
I think what happened today is the exact positives and negatives of the trade. You got a really good player. Played well, and he impacted the game positively. That's what I liked about the trade. What I didn't like about the trade is he's a free safety. And even though the free safety played well, it did nothing in the end to help them win on a day where the other team played so badly, they tried to make the Steelers win, and the Steelers just wouldn't have it. So my point is, this is going to be a very bad team this year. This is likely going to be a top 10 picking team this year. And the fact they went out and got a really good free safety is nice. But if they were sitting there in the top 10, I'd prefer to have that top 10 pick potentially be a quarterback, pass rusher.
But there's no guarantees about quarterbacks. We've seen too many of them drafted in the top 5 who haven't panned out either. Check out Marcus Mariota from this past week.
Okay, but the last one that they had at 11 worked out okay.
I understand. They essentially got their first-round pick next year, this year, in last year's pick, if that makes any sense. And that's what they decided to do. A little bit out of their comfort zone, and which led me to ask Chris Hoke today about this. You know, since they're out of their comfort zone and, you know, given the urgency, if this prolongs, could there be potential coaching changes on Mike Tomlin's staff in season, which we never see?
In season?
I'm only saying that because I don't think so, but you never know.
But these are uncharted waters.
Right.
You know, we haven't seen them go beyond 0 for 4 like we just talked about. They get to 0 and 5. Why not?
But typically what happens for a head coach is that you make changes to others under, you know, to try to stir things up.
All they have to do is look in their own division, right? The Ravens did it, and it worked out.
And they won.
Yes.
So we'll see. All right, let's go out to the lines. We got Pete in Squirrel Hill. What's up, Pete? How you doing?
Hey, guys, how are you tonight?
We're good, thanks.
Hey, Bob, about the Minkah Fitzpatrick deal, no one in his town seems to address this issue. He seems to me to be the same type of player as Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell in that he quit on his team, Bob. When going got roughed down in Miami, he wanted out of town.
How about his team quit on him, too, though? I mean that was just a complete sell-off of players, Pete. You know,
well, don't you, though, you care about your teammates in good times and bad times, and you fight through.
Yeah, but your teammates have all just been traded. They're just getting rid of them all left and right to stockpile draft picks.
Well, the difference is he asked.
Yeah,
Those
he
other
did.
guys just left.
They just left or didn't show. Yeah, he did. He was professional about it, and he didn't demand a trade. He asked for a trade.
But and another thing about that is, what do you mean nobody in this town isn't talking about that? That's been brought up 1,000 times. I've heard already, and I don't want to be critical of the trade while being critical. Reasons I outlined before. He's a good player and he's going to help this team, but I just don't know if he's going to help it to the point that it justifies giving up the first round pick you've done in 50 years, 52 years for a free safety and in a bad season.
Jimmy Sticks on Twitter says Bush looks lost, Barrett lacks effort, same dumb plays. I want to get your comment, but this next gentleman wants to talk about Devin Bush, so let's go to Mike in Pittsburgh. Tim, what's up, Mike?
Hey, I just want to talk about Devin Bush. You know, picked up 2 fumbles today. One, he was getting blocked, pushed around the field, and he got pushed off a block, and the ball came to his feet. The next one's laying there. They abused him last week. I called the plays. I watched it. I said, they're going to get a mismatch on Bush and throw it up high. 2 touchdowns over him last week. He's late to every play. You see him jogging in 3 steps late after the tackles are made. He just looks like he's lost. And maybe
the only thing I'd say about him, though, Mike, I'd give him a little bit of time. He is a first-year player, and he has stats to back up. But as I said today on our pregame show, thanks for the call, those stats come 4 or 5 yards after he's blocked away from the play. In order to be a linebacker here, you got to make. They miss Vince Williams from that point of view today.
The learning curve has been steeper on Bush than we expected, given the way he was moved up to acquire in the draft and given the way he started in the preseason. That's been a disappointment. I would caution on giving up on the player right now because a lot of these same complaints are made about Ryan Shazier. And I think the
Absolutely.
entire city would do anything to get Ryan Shazier back right now.
I agree. Dana in Turtle Creek. What's up, Dana? How are you? Welcome to the Sports Call.
Hi. In the past, when a team performed like the Steelers do, they blamed the coach. Whatever happened with that?
You don't think Mike Tomlin gets any blame?
I think he gets a lot of blame.
I read the paper all the time. They never.
Okay.
Try reading mine.
No, we do. I mean, I don't think you're reading long enough or hard enough or watching enough because we do a lot of that. Now, some people think that we in the media control what the team should do, and that they listen. They're not going to do that. You know, we have this debate all the time with the Pirates and what should happen, what will happen. Well, I think if you followed along most times here, I think what will happen is not much. What should happen should be more. But what can you do? You talk about it, and that's all you can do.
I mean, I don't know how much more I can say than I would have at the end of last season had Mike Munchak stay on as the head coach and move on with him as the head coach and move away from Tomlin. That was my thought last year. And by the way, how's the offensive line look without Mike Munchak?
Yeah, well, they've not played well.
You know,
holes not open, running backs not taking advantage of what little holes there are.
You know,
but again, I just don't think they commit to it enough. I think you have to keep doing it.
We do a lot of talking about how great certain people are and how much they positively impact the team, and then when they are gone, all of a sudden we say, oh, don't worry about it. They won't miss a beat. They were going to miss a beat without Mike Munchak. I think, sadly, you're seeing that right now at the wide receiver position. We all knew how impactful that Daryl Drake was to them and how much of a listener he was to them. We talked about that at great length for 2 weeks after Daryl Drake passed away. And just to then assume in a season where there's a great deal of transition for the wide receivers that Ray Sherman can come in and make them into better players, that's a huge ask.
It is.
And, you know, I think we're kind of lying to ourselves on that and lying to ourselves about the whole addition by subtraction theory that just because Lev and Antonio Brown were bad guys, that all of a sudden they could leave and the clubhouse chemistry was going to overwhelm that and make it a better team. It's not.
It's not. And there's talent, and we all knew that talent. But Le'Veon Bell, I wouldn't put in the same category as Antonio Brown. I just think he was what he wanted, was more money. He miscalculated the entire thing. And it cost him money, as it turned out, long term.
It did. And he screwed over the Steelers by making the decision when he made the decision, because then there's $14 million more.
But that doesn't make him a bad. I think he has bad advice.
Well, yeah, but Bob, the way he's acted since leaving the Steelers, the Twitter stuff, the rap lyrics about the team.
But I'm talking about right now, when he went through that process, I didn't look at it as a bad guy. I thought he was making bad judgments on his future. I think that contract the Steelers offered was, as it turns out, better, and he was worried about guaranteed money. But, you know, he was going to get the money that he was owed.
Well, he's not a bad guy like Brown. A civil suit against him,
right.
but I mean, I don't like the way he's acted.
I understand. I just wouldn't put him in the same. That's a whole different category.
Antonio Brown is his own category for many. Thank God he's his own category for many reasons.
Yeah, I guess we should talk about that when we come back. Maybe we'll do it and get more calls.
Something else happened in the last 10 minutes?
I don't know. Maybe so. Got to check Twitter.
Cut from the XFL already?
Call God. We'll be right back after this on Pittsburgh CW.